Hello everyone and welcome to Homestead for a Living. I'm sitting outside enjoying the last few moments before the likely rain starts, as we have a little bit of a mild storm moving in. You might hear some of the thunder on this video, and I thought it was kind of metaphorical for what I want to talk about, which is the current economic climate that we're moving into as a nation and as a planet. If you've followed this channel for any length of time, you know that for the last 2 years we've been talking about the inevitable result of the things like the lockdowns and the money printing and incentivizing people not to work through stimuluses and through tyrannical medical mandates. The fact that there hasn't been more of a significant collapse sooner has been very surprising, very pleasantly surprising. But it would seem that right now the legacy media is really turning on that tap, figuratively, of turning on the spigot of doom regarding the economic climate. There's still a lot of denial happening, but you're starting to see mainstream sources and mainstream politicians go ahead and lay the groundwork for introducing the populace to the idea that they're about to be really poor. And of course, you'll see a lot of misinformation coming from legacy media and from our I don't want to say leaders, our rulers, regarding this, and they will have all sorts of excuses and reasons why it's probably our fault and our fault for existing in climate change or something like that. You know, they'll have the reasons, but all of that's not too relevant to what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is I've kind of stopped using phrases like economic collapse because I don't think that's how we should frame it, and I don't think that's how we should think about it, because this is a tremendous time of opportunity, and I would call what we're going into economic restoration. Just like everything else right now, we are experiencing a bifurcation of society where some people are going to go one direction and the rest of us are going to go another direction. And it seems like much of the world is determined to move into acceptance of living in a totalitarian state where there are no human rights. And they are willing to follow narratives and believe whatever they're told from what they deem to be authoritative sources. Whereas the rest of us are moving in an opposite direction, really, I think, taking a more pragmatic and independent thinking approach and realizing that the result of all of these things is supposed to be economic collapse for the majority, and a removal of wealth from the middle class, from lower classes, and from I think even the lower upper classes. Really, anybody that's not an elite right now, essentially, is going to, many people are going to be losing their rear ends in the coming days, or they already have. And to say that we're going into a recession or something like that is not even quite accurate, because I think many areas of the country already are and have been for some time. But at the same time, those of us who are moving away from this system of control and from the industrial system and away from cities, we are moving towards a new kind of financial system, one which is not dependent on manipulatable fiat currency. And I just want to talk about that and give some examples of what that's looking like. As we've moved closer to the land and closer to community and tried to build community around us, we've started to build our own community based on trade, based on giving, based on trust. And I would posit that fiat currency is not an efficient means of transaction. It's not an efficient means of anything. It's designed to rob you, and it's very good at what it does. It's a tool of empires going back millennia. And Jesus was very clever with his use of words when he said, "Render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's." When they asked him, should we be paying taxes? And I think he was essentially saying, if you're going to use his monetary system, then yeah, go ahead and pay taxes. And I think that's a call for us to move away from financial systems that require us to show income and use fiat. So again, I want to talk about some examples of how that might play out. We've got several neighbors here. We live in kind of a rural subdivision. We're at the very end, and you know, it's actually an ideal situation because we don't really have neighbors. There's no visible neighbors, but we do have people that live very close to us. There's a road, a small gravel road, and it dead ends at our house, and there's several rental houses along there, and then several permanent houses where people own the property. And we are doing trade with many of these neighbors now. The one across, the closest neighbor to us, he helped us build this entire house, asking for almost nothing. We had to force him to take money. And that's become a two-way relationship where we just try to outgive him as fast as he gives to us. We have neighbors across the street from us where we'll give them eggs, and they oftentimes will hit a local food drop that I think like surplus food is sent there, and they bring baskets of that food over. It's not food we really use. It's not necessarily as healthy as we'd like, but we sure prep. That's our preps, and we just throw that into our prepping area, and we save that for a rainy day or to give to other people. and then their son will come work on our farm and help us out with things, and we'll go help them with projects. The other day his go-kart was broken, so we gave him some gasoline. So there's just a transaction always happening back and forth, and none of us are keeping track. It's just done out of love and neighborliness and an understanding that our neighbors are our allies. I've got another neighbor just a couple houses down. He works at a factory that sells they sell yogurt, and he's able to get 55-gallon barrels used, food grade. I buy those, and I put my spigots on them, the spigots that we sell on the website, and I put those spigot systems on them, and then I flip those barrels and I sell them. And he brings me them whenever he's able to get them from his work. There's another neighbor just adjacent to us on this side of the property. He's a cattle farmer, and we haven't yet done this transaction, but we've been talking about it, and it'll probably happen soon, where he's going to bring me a load of manure for free from his cattle. And my garden, my upper garden, the market garden area, is right next to his house, so I'm always giving him turnips and turnip greens and kale and just whatever vegetables are up there. So that's a lot of economy happening on our block. And the barrels is the only one where a little bit of fiat is exchanging hands, but that's fine because I'm getting fiat by selling those barrels. And this kind of economy is far more efficient because these are the people who are my friends, my neighbors, my allies. And so while it might take a little longer to work out a transaction when you're bartering with somebody, that time you spend with them needs to be spent with them anyway. These are the people who, if S hits the fan at some point, they're going to be my allies. They're going to be the people we pass out radios to and develop security with. These are the people we're starting businesses with, and a lot of when we're doing business with, and we're building things together. We're watching out for each other. This is the economy we need. We do not need fiat. We don't need the industrial system. Yes, there are luxuries. I love air conditioning. I love all of the things that come with, or some of the things that come with a globalized industrial system. I like getting coffee shipped to me from across the world since it won't grow here. But I can do without all of that. I can do without electricity, and I can build a successful, resilient life without dependence on it. I think we all can. I think we vastly overestimate what this system gives us. We think we need its healthcare, but we don't. Really, it makes us sick and dependent on its I don't even want to call it healthcare. It's not healthcare. It's drugs that are prescribed without regard to what a person's lifestyle changes might need to be or anything like that. We don't need this industrial system. We don't have any need for it at all. I think it's a lie. I think we've grown up propagandized to believe that we need it. You know, we're taught from birth that back in the old days, everyone died in infancy, they died in childbirth, and everyone lived to be about 30 and then died. But then thankfully the industrial system came along and saved us all. I don't think that's true at all. I don't think humanity would have made it this far if that was true. And I think it's based on a false historical narrative. All this long rambling to say, let's go ahead and build a financial system without fiat and without reliance on a currency that is literally designed to hyperinflate or inflate over time and rob you of your wealth. Not to say we can't use dollars or other versions of dollars. It's a necessity in a world where there's a powerful regime which requires property tax. We live in a feudal system. I don't own this land. The government owns this land, and they own you. That's what they think, and they have the might to enforce it until that changes. And that may always be the case. You know, it doesn't really matter if there's a government, there's an oppressor. All governments are inherently evil and inherently rely on theft of your resources. So let's build a better economy. This is not financial collapse we're going into. It will be for many people, the majority of people. But for the rest of us, this can be opportunity and financial restoration and economic restoration. We can build an economy that actually works based on truth, honesty, based on your reputation. We're looking at another case of neighbors and the economy. We're looking at a piece of property we'd like to buy. And I don't know if any of this will work out, but owner financing is a very real possibility. And I've bought properties on owner financing before. And when you build a reputation in an area for being honest and hardworking, then people who have money in the area, there's a lot of people in any given area that have a lot of money, people who've built wealth over time, baby boomers who are retiring, they may be more likely to do business with you if you are a good opportunity for them. If you're going to pay, you know, they might buy a piece of property or own a piece of property and you pay them a higher rate to purchase it from them over time. They're making extra money on that transaction, and if you have a good reputation, then you're more likely to be able to pull that off. So another case of you don't even need loans. You don't need banks. We don't need any of that stuff. We can transact completely outside of the system, and we should. We will build wealth far faster when we do. And it also forces you to take a more realistic look at how your little economy is going to work on your homestead. You're going to need to actually build skills that are invaluable. Sometimes building skills is fun. Sometimes it's kind of not. In my career as a homestead designer, I've had to learn a lot of new skills fast. Water catchment and water systems is one I've been having to learn on the fly because people keep wanting that from these projects. Fortunately, I've had some experience in that since I was about 15. I've had a lot of water, like spring catchment and water catchment systems I've been fortunate enough to be a part of and be around and witness. But whatever your area is, if you build those invaluable skills, it doesn't matter what happens in the world. It doesn't matter if the dollar collapses, if nobody can afford to buy anything, there's no employment. If your skills are invaluable, people are gonna find a way to pay you to get them. Even if they can't pay you in money, in fiat, they'll pay you in whatever they can do and whatever their services are. And you'll probably find you become wealthier much faster with that kind of transaction anyway. I think barter and the gift economy and all of these different kinds of transactions are more efficient, and they build wealth without the need for tyranny and government and all of that. So that's a long-winded talk about what we're going into, but I think it's important to frame things correctly as we go forward into this very different world. And economic restoration is a phrase we should all try out and try to think about. All right, y'all, in the meantime, stay safe, be well, and happy homesteading.